Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to the town of Clevedon in Somerset, in North Somerset in fact. We're just probably 10 or 12 miles to the south of the large city of Bristol here. So we've got some sea for you today. Well, actually it's the Bristol Channel, I'm afraid. It's not the Med or even the Cornish or Devon Riviera. But here to have a look around this lovely and fascinating town, which has been filmed many times on TV and cinema. I'll tell you about that. Lots of interesting things have happened here. There's lots of interesting things to show you too. So why not join me on a tour here in Clevedon in Somerset. Now I'm at the top of the town at the moment, a place called Walton, just on the edge of Clevedon. And here around this area lies a castle. And we're going to have a look for that castle first before we walk into the town and have a look at the famous pier, of course, more about that, and all the other interesting sights there are to see here in this lovely town in Somerset. On the way to the castle, you have Walton St Mary Church here in Clevedon. I don't know a lot about it. I'll put in the date of construction below now. But beautiful church just at the top of the town here in Somerset. Now, unfortunately, Walton Castle is private itself, which I did know, but the access road to it is also private. But I managed to go just from the footpath, take a couple of photographs of it. The interesting thing is it was built in the 17th century and it's built on the site of a former Iron Age fortification. It was restored in 1984, between mid-80s anyway, between 1984 to 86 by one Margaretta Hamilton. I don't know anything about her, obviously a local lady. Anybody knows anymore, drop a comment in below. And in 1987, it was given a Grade 2 protected status. It looks like there's parking facilities there, so there's obviously events that go on there from time to time, but it isn't generally open to the public. But it has a commanding view, not only over the Bristol Channel, but also over the town too. So what we're going to do now is go on way back down into the town centre. So now just walking back down from Walton Castle. Parked my car at the top of the town. There's plenty of parking in the residential areas, although of course you can park in this town centre. I've decided to come in via the Portishead Road. I think I came through some Gordano or Gordano. I never know how to pronounce it. I'm sure one of you can enlighten me because I know there's a few subscribers that live in this area. The other thing to mention is welcome to West Country Wanderings, because I've picked up quite a few new subscribers recently. So if you're one of those new subscribers, you're most welcome here on West Country Wanderings. Now at this point here, you can normally pick up the North Somerset Tidal Trail, which goes on to Portishead, which is the next town north of here, which is just, as I say, just south of Bristol. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's closed, I think, because there's been a bit of a cliff erosion, very unstable cliffs around here, as we'll see later in today's video. But yeah, normally you'll be able to walk right through there to Portishead. Now, a lot of Clevedon is made up of these grand Victoria villas. There was some more at the top there by the castle, but obviously previously it's really difficult to start taking images of those sort of buildings. But yeah, so it's quite a wealthy area. I think today there's a lot of retired people that have come here to live. It's also a commuter town for the nearby city of Bristol too. So this is the famous Clevedon Pier. We will be going on this later. There is an entry fee. I think it's about £4. I'll put in the price below. There's a charity trust that runs it, but I'll give you some more history about that when we go out later in the video. So we're now on the promenade here at Clevedon. Wonderful bracing sea air coming across the Bristol Channel there. Just over the other side of there is South Wales, not that far from Cardiff. In fact, when I parked my car, just tuning across the DAB stations there, I was picking up the Cardiff Community Mux and be able to listen to all the stations from Cardiff too. Clevedon's hit the headlines recently because of what you see in front of you, these weird beige markings with wavy lines. So it's a one-way road across the promenade, 20 miles an hour, which is good. But yeah, you can see the beige doesn't define the parking from the road, from the cycle route, from where people are supposed to walk. It's not very clear at all. So that was making the headlines here in Clevedon. So while we have that sign in front of us, where does the name Clevedon come from? Well, it's actually made up of two words. Cleve, meaning a vale, valley between a hill, and the Dun stands from Anglo-Saxon D-O-N-E or D-U-N-E, meaning hill. So it is the valley between the hill. I do apologise for the wind noise today. Got my dead kitten on, tucked in from my woolly coat. It is quite bracing. Just don't come to Clevedon to expect to see a white sandy beach. It is shingle here, and it is a similar context to what we saw a bit further south from here when I made the video at Lilstock Beach back in December last year. If you've not seen that one, check that out when I explain about the geology of the area, and it has a very similar makeup with clays and shales, and that is also what gives the appearance of the sea here its muddy grey look too. So it's a very pleasant pace. You've got various cafes here right on the promenade, but very tasteful. There you can sit outside that one there. I think it's just called On the Beach Kitchen and Bar. So we're still following the seafront here, the promenade. We're turning around a corner now. I think it enters some gardens here. So we'll enter those now and we'll continue our walk. We'll also go over towards Wayne's Hill, and we'll have a look at a tidal pool as well as the town centre too, because it has a number of interesting features as well. And then we'll return back here to have a trip along the pier. Now this here is the Clevedon Cobra, and it's a longitudinal mosaic, and it's dedicated to the lives for families that lost loved ones during the peak of the pandemic in 2019, 2020 and 2021. Of course the pandemic continues, it hasn't gone away, but it's a wonderful art installation just to remind us of the people that we lost. Wave back upon Lady Bay, the sea spray refresh my face. I wave to the sea, a sudden misty embrace, partly obscured the ghostly magnificence that is Clevedon Pier. This is the Spirit of the Millennium monument here in front of the view of the pier there in the background, of course. That's terrific. AD 2000, seems such a long time ago now. Well, it was 23 years ago. So we even have a pub here right on the promenade, the Little Harp. It's got outdoor and indoor eating and seating. Now a location called Salthouse. That's Wayne Hill behind the back of that white house there. So you also have a tidal pool here, and to the right of that is what is known as Green Beach, because the water kind of sits in those large pedals there and algae forms. And as you'll probably know from my 7-way series, the Bristol Channel and the Severn Estuary has the largest tidal range in the world, which means there's a large gap between when the tide goes out in and then it fills up this pool here. So you've got water to bathe in all of the time when the water has long retreated out. So yes, it's also known as Clevedon Marine Lake as well as Tidal Lake, or sometimes also known as Salthouse Lake too. But yeah, fantastic bracing here at Clevedon. Really refreshing. A bit of blue sky, that's good to see. And the sun's coming out now, I can feel it on the top of my head. It's warming up a bit. And the wind's dropping too, and there are some brave people there in the tidal pool, swimming in it at the moment. And no, you haven't stumbled across one of my railway series videos by mistake. No, I know some of you do subscribe to me for my railway content, but yeah, there is a miniature railway here in Clevedon. And I'll tell you a little bit more about railways here in a bit. But yes, this is not running today, but here in Salthouse Park, probably in the late spring, early summer, it will start running again. But that's good to see a little miniature railway there, obviously mainly for the children and children at heart. So the history of this lake is that it was proposed in the 1900s, so some 120 odd years ago now, to provide a swimming facility for sea swimming when the tide's out, but also to remove a problem, and that problem was the fact that seaweed used to congregate in this corner of the beach or cove, Beatty Cove, and it used to smell with the heat of the sun. So the tidal pool was born, and I think it opened in the 1920s. That wasn't the end of the story, because a couple of the 1970s people used to take themselves off on package deal flights to places like Spain and further afield, and English seaside resorts were in trouble and it started to decline. But there was a revival around the millennium and the tidal pool was cleaned out, and it now remains as popular as it ever was. I appreciate it's very controversial, but this lookout was used by the Finzel family, who were sugar plantation owners over in the West Indies. They lived hereabouts. One of the reasons that explains Clevedon wealth, and they used this lookout to view the ships coming back to the West Indies with all the sugar on board. Now, as many of you will know, I don't normally like towns. I get quite anxious in crowds. But pleased to report that Clevedon, certainly in March at least, towards the end of March, on a bright, sunny but breezy Saturday morning, has a very chilled out vibe. It's good to see families out together enjoying themselves, walking along the prom, enjoying the tidal pool. I didn't expect to see people swimming in that today, and also drinking along, not alcohol, but teas, coffees and having snacks along the promenade too. So now at the top of Wayne Hill, see the transmitters there. I think they're for the techies amongst you like me, it's medium wave transmitters, old school AM. I think perhaps UC Radio 5 Live comes out of there. I don't know for how much longer. So that's in the direction towards the M5. But over here, wow, what an extraordinary sight that is. Excuse the guy cutting the grass there around the graveyard, keeping it tidy there though. Extraordinary place in the dip, in the Cleve no less. And that is one of Cleveland's many churches. I'm not sure how many churches Cleveland's got. It's got a fair few. There's this one here, not sure the name of that either. But where I'm standing at the top of Wayne Hill, looking back out to the Bristol Channel on a very breezy day. So with that extraordinary sight behind me, I'm going to take a break now. We're just going to grab a drink and some lunch, and then we're going to have a look around the town and then finish up on Clevedon's famous pier. Also got a great little miniature golf course here too, but that doesn't seem to be open either. Probably Easter in a couple of weeks' time it'll restart again. So we have a lovely water fountain which was installed in 1895. Absolutely beautiful. I think it was restored in the 1980s and around the time of the millennium when a lot of the town was tidied up. But just above the water fountain you have this beautiful little garden, complete with a food kiosk called Pink Butterflies, which serves Pan-Asian food. And so I'm now on Marine Hill, and we have another drinking fountain here. Isn't that beautiful? And this one was erected in 1902, just 7 years after the one we saw lower down in the town. On the other side of it, it has a smaller one with the inscription, "Keep the pavement dry." Certainly getting a good glimpse across to Cardiff over in that direction. At the top of Marine Hill, you have a footpath which takes you further uphill towards Dial Hill. So here we are on beautiful Clevedon Pier. It actually reminds me very much of what was Burnbeck Pier in the Weston-super Mare, which is sadly now in disrepair. And I remember going on Burnbeck Pier in the 1980s, long before it closed, I think, which it closed in the 1990s. This pier here in Clevedon opened in 1871. It wasn't just purely for people promenading out to sea. It was actually had a functional purpose too, because at the end of the pier is where the paddle steamers could tie up and people could come on day trips here from places like Swansea, Ilfracombe, Cardiff and Bristol instead of arriving by train, car or bus. Pier was once described by Sir John Betjeman as being the finest pier in the country, and I tend to agree with that. It has a very elegant outside to it. As I say, it has a functional purpose, but it went into a period of decline. In fact, it went through a period of many declines throughout its history here. It's now run by a charitable trust. It does cost to come onto the pier. I paid £3.25 today to do so, so it's well worth the money, I can assure you. And it's wonderful to see this pier here in Clevedon fully restored now. It looks magnificent both from when you're on it and also from the promenade too. You may notice on the pier itself that there are a number of plaques. In fact, these plaques run both the entire length and breadth of this pier. And that's people that donated money to have the pier restored. So it's thanks to them, all the many, many thousands of people that came to Clevedon to walk along this magnificent pier. And it's due to them that we're able to walk along it today. Now, both at the end of the pier and at the start of the pier by that beautiful stone structure there, you have a restaurant cafe. So you have a cafe here at the end of the pier and a restaurant at the front, and proceeds, or profit should I say, from both of those facilities also go towards the pier's upkeep. Now from this angle you can just appreciate what an elegant structure this pier is, with its curved supporting columns there. Duff information earlier on, I said it was 1871. It's actually 1869 that the pier opened, and it was designed by one Hans Price. It has 8 30-metre arch spans and a total length of 310 metres. Its main function was to attract tourists into this lovely town of Clevedon here in the northern part of the county of Somerset. And because of the tidal range of the Bristol Channel, they can't get any closer to the seafront here at Clevedon, hence why this pier was built. They worked it out that this was the length it needed to be so that paddle steamers could come up and embark and disembark their passengers into the town. And the most famous paddle steamer is the SS Waverley, which also goes to the Isle of Lundy out in the Bristol Channel, and that steamship returned here when this pier was fully restored. In fact, in 2001, this pier was given Grade 1 listed status. Now, it does get quite windy out in the Bristol Channel, as you can imagine. We have these wonderful little shelters which you can sit in. That's where I was just doing the piece to camera there, which gives you an escape away from the worst of the wind. 10 a.m. on the Friday, the 16th of October 1970, this pier completely collapsed. I managed to get a shot of a photo there just to show you the devastation befell it, and the people of the town thought that was the end of their wonderful pier. Now it's thanks to the good townsfolk and the assertiveness of the people of Clevedon that we have this pier here today. After months and many years of fundraising and fighting battles with developers and building contractors, in fact one I think went bankrupt during the course of the pier's rebuilding, it finally reopened in May 1998. I think it was a bank holiday at the end of May, to great fanfare, and it was a delight to see. And the pier's restoration has now acted as a catalyst for the revival of Clevedon as an entire seaside resort. I've been to many seaside resorts, both on the channel and not on the channel over the years, and this is one of the finest I've actually been to resorts in terms of its liveliness, how cared for the town is in terms of its parks and the facilities it offers to its many visitors. Now right next to the entrance to the pier, just on the left there, like the castellated tower, which is the entrance way for the pier, you have, or you did have, the Rock Hotel, which is now the Rock House, which has been turned into apartments, but it's still a delightful building. Really impressive structure as you come onto the pier itself, built right into the rock of the cliff face. So I'm now going to say goodbye to the pier here, lovely Clevedon pier. It's been an absolute delight walking along and visiting it and telling you about the story of its revival. We're going to now head into Clevedon Town Centre, which we've not yet seen. I'm going to tell you some more things and show you some more things around this wonderful town here in Somerset. Clevedon, the seafront, is about a good half mile away from the town centre, so I've just walked up the hill from where we were at the pier. Now we need to turn right to get into the town centre proper. The artist Doris Hatt was born in Bath Spa not that far here from Clevedon, but she moved to Clevedon, Swiss Valley in 1922, and she was a pioneering modernist painter. On the way to the town centre from the seafront, it's about a 20-25 minute walk, have many parks, of which this is one of them. It's just lovely. So what you see on your screens now is the oldest cinema in the United Kingdom. It was actually constructed in, wait for this, 1912. What's that, something like 20 years after cinematography had been invented, which is incredible. It was extended in 1921, so it's just the building on the right with their fabulous arch and sunray effect. It's magnificent. And the building on the left was extended to, say, 1921. If you look up in the windows, you can see film reel spools too, which is a nice touch. Absolutely fantastic. So we're now in Clevedon town centre, sometimes known as Clevedon Village. We've still got these magnificent buildings around us. Lots of independent shops too, antique shops. I've just seen a clockmaker's shop too. It's not something you often see, but we're going to continue our tour here in Clevedon. So this is Clevedon's famous triangular clock. It was opened in 1889 on New Year's Eve. And what did they do? They sang Auld Lang Syne around it, and they've done so in this town ever since. Not the most elegant part of the town, but the reason I point this out is this is the site of Clevedon's former railway station. Yes, as I say, it had the branch line which went down to the Bristol-Exeter line at Yatton. Some of you may be thinking, if you watch TV and look at film locations, wasn't Broadchurch filmed in Clevedon? Well, yes it was, and you're probably thinking, well, it doesn't look like where Broadchurch was filmed. And you'd be correct, because it was actually filmed in a suburb of Clevedon called Hill Road, and that's where we're going to be heading to next. So the independent shopping area is at Hill Road, and it's a good half to 3/4 of a mile from the main Clevedon shopping centre, or town centre should I say, which is where you would arrive if you came off the M5 and came in that way. That's the thing with Clevedon, you need lots of shoe leather and a map too to take you around, because the town is so spread out. But it's wonderful walking around here because you have these big wide streets, plenty of trees and parks, and these beautiful Victorian villas too. And it's not too crowded because it's so spread out. You never feel like it's really like in a congested urban area. It's an absolute delight. I've been absolutely enjoying my day here in Clevedon. And so 20 minutes walk from the town centre brings us here to the Hill Road shopping precinct. As I say, it was filmed a lot in the ITV series Broadchurch, which was 10 years ago now. I think there was a series 2 which aired, about 7 years ago, of course, starring the magnificent actor David Tennant. And although it was based in Dorset, Bridport and West Bay, that's where it was mainly filmed. For the street scenes, they were all filmed in and around Clevedon. This is a beautiful line of streets here. Very well laid out, and it's good to see lots of independent shops too. So Clevedon gives you that choice of all the chains in the town centre. And you can come here, which keeps you fit because it's a good 20-25 minute walk uphill to this section here, which gives you an entirely different range and choice of things to buy. Wonderful. I think that looks like a good place to stop for a coffee and bring this video to conclusion. I love all the blue. Great. I managed to get my coffee in the wonderful independent coffee shop there. It's quite reasonable at all as well. Just come into Alexandra Gardens. Wonderful green space here, really nice and quiet. The parade of shops at Hill Road is just up there. Highly recommend a visit to that if you come to Clevedon. There are various ways of getting around the town, so I recommend that you either bring a street map or use Google Maps or similar to find your way around, because it is a little bit confusing, the geography of the town, the main town centre being quite some distance from the seafront, and also being quite some distances from here. I've just noticed that there is yet another parade of shops called Alexander Road, which is just down the bottom of the gardens there, and sadly won't have time to do that today because I'm running out of battery on my wireless microphone. But I've really thoroughly enjoyed my day here in Clevedon. It's blown me away. I would call it a 5-star location. The only proviso is don't expect a soft sandy beach or blue sea, but apart from that it has a fantastic pier, the oldest cinema in the UK, some terrific gardens, wonderful Victoria villas, a very relaxed air, a beautiful tidal swimming pool, that hill which has just escaped me at the top of the town there, the castle too. Yeah, there's just so much here. You really need to come to Clevedon. It's a fantastic day out. I highly recommend it. Terrific. Been totally blown away. Brilliant. I hope you've enjoyed it today here on West Country Wanderings. There'll be another one on my channel in the not too distant future. If this like this sort of thing, then please consider a subscribe. Also hit the bell, then YouTube will tell you when the next video lands on my channel. Until next time, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you all very soon. All the best. Bye bye.